I bought River Lot 3 10 years ago, and it was Frances Stapleton was living here. She was from Calgary. She used to come up for several months in the summer. She was very active with the Friends of Fort Victoria, I think, and just loved the history. She had spotted the place, just loved the location. So she would spend the entire summer out here. The property dates back to the original Victoria settlement. It's the first river lots were this strip right up to what used to be called Pakan, a little community at the corner, and so these are the initial lots, and later they added a second sort of a Victorian group of lots here. So they were half-breeds. The original settlers were half-breeds from Red River, and they call themselves half-breeds, which is now politically incorrect, of course. They weren't Métis because they weren't French Canadian. They were Scottish and English and Aboriginal ancestry. And this property was settled by several of them, the Spences, Andrew Spence and I think his brother, and then Joseph Favel, who was Favel was one of the early steam paddleboat Hudson's Bay Company captains on the North Saskatchewan River, and he had a house which is just on the field here on River Lot 3. And actually, I allowed an archaeologist onto the property a few years ago, and he did some archaeology there, and he actually found the location of the foundation. Yeah, so he spent the summer and did a thesis on that, and the path actually from his house down to the river, because of course there were most of the transportation was river based. That path is still there. You can see where he would haul his goodies up from the paddle wheeler when he would come up and down the river. So there were originally 3 different settlers living on what's now River Lot 3, and then it was properly surveyed into a river lot. And the next sort of there were a number of interesting people living here, but the next sort of major development was when the McGilvery house was moved, and that's the Free Traders house. And that was originally up at in what's now Harold Mitchell's property, and it was moved, I think, I'm just doing this from memory now. I've written an essay on this, which was published in Alberta History, but I think it was 1901 or 1903. It was moved to this site as part of a homestead, and you can actually see the logs are each numbered in Roman numerals. So the house was disassembled and then reassembled at this location, and it was sort of in the yard there, I guess, at the turn of this, more than 100 years ago, just over about 100 years ago, and it was then relocated to River Lot 3, and then they would have built this storehouse, which is out here, which dates to that period. So there are different styles of construction, as you'll see. The Free Traders house is dovetail notches, and it's a squared log, sort of classic Red River style log construction, whereas the storehouse was rounded logs and is a little different. And so that McGilvery house was moved down here. I'm trying to remember who the Cromarty family then purchased the property. I can't remember when they, again, it's in my essay, but they took title, I think, around 1920. Mm-hmm. They were also a very important family of the fur trade here, as was McGilvery. McGilvery, who built the Free Traders house, was descended from the Honorable William McGilvery of the Northwest Company, one of the founders of the Northwest Company, and he was, I can't remember his grandson or great grandson. So it's linked to the and McGilvery, at that stage, the Hudson's Bay Company had absorbed the Northwest Company, and it was one company. So he had worked for the Hudson's Bay Company until he retired and was on pension, and then he started to trade furs in opposition to the Hudson's Bay Company, his lifelong employer. That's Edward McGilvery, whose house this is, and so it became known as the Free Traders house. He used to have people come and trade furs in that house, competing against Fort Victoria just down the street. So really the importance of this structure vis-a-vis the site and Fort Victoria is major significance, because you had the Hudson's Bay Company and its independent competitor just down the road from one another. And the fact that both have survived is really amazing. The Cromartys were also early settlers in this area. They were down, I think it's now View or Riverside Farm. That was a Cromarty property. I think Harold Mitchell is actually related to the Cromartys as well. And so there's a lot of history there. And they had the property, I think, from around 1920 up until Francis Stapleton purchased it. I can't remember when that was, maybe in the 70s. So there's a lot of fur trade history here, and it's just tied into the whole history of Victoria Settlement and Pakan. Collapsed down on its, this end was almost totally into the ground. Do you remember? It was about 4 logs up. So this, you can see the top log is original, and then two there. This is all new wood, but it's all been hand hewn, using the same sort of instruments and the same approach as it would have been, originally. This is new here, just up to there. And this is all original. The rest of this is all original, except for the bottom log there, bottom 2 logs. And the doors are all made using square nails, so they're all done exactly as they would have been, and they're oiled every year. You're gonna have to oil them with linseed oil. This has got old glass. The windows they used like 100-year-old glass, so that it's got all the distortions when you're inside. And look out, it has all the sort of imperfections and distortions. This is just a plexiglass outer thing that you can take off in the summer if you want. Just unhooks and comes off. But it's all done. It's all done, with the advice of the Alberta government to make sure that it retains all the original features and style. So this is exactly as a house would have been originally. In fact, when I got it, this was a window, and this was a window. It had been altered, probably like in the 40s or something, and but this was the original front door. So we restored the original front door, and whoever had changed it had put the door on this side. So we closed that off and turned that back into a window. So it's now got exactly the original, design in terms of windows and doors that it would have had originally when it was built. Careful, Jake. What I want to keep in mind is these are the original beams. You can see the grooves in them, which is just a decorative feature. They're really unusual. So what you want to do is make sure you still get lots of head clearance, from more than 6 feet head clearance under those beams. So the key is to get as low as possible the floor, as low as the stones, We still got the stairs, they're in the barn, so those will be restored, have to be put back in. Yeah. And on the inside, you would also paint the logs white, likely.
What are these?
That was when they insulated the house at one point with mud and manure and whatnot. These were to hold it on, help hold it on. So in fact, it was interesting when I bought it. It had probably this much insulation, but David Kaplaza says it originally wouldn't have. That was added over the years and years and years. So these were even covered. The beams, you couldn't see the detailing on them. In fact, you can see where the muck ended there. Yeah. Right? This is then the roof. So when that stuff all dropped off, he said, they would have been exposed beams. So what you want to do is you want to oil these beams. Yeah. They're gorgeous. These are really, he said, I think Fort Dunvegan has similar decorative beads like that, but it's very unusual. This is a really important building, and it's a beautiful structure. Yeah, no, it's been a lot of work. We, a lot of patience in finding the sort of log experts. There aren't many people that can still do that kind of hand hewing of logs and scoring of timber, and finding the large. A lot of this material was actually bought just south of the river from a guy who's got a forest, a logging operation there on his own land, a wood lot. So the wood is local wood, which is really nice, and really 50-50 in terms of what was original log and what's new. But it's all done exactly, so you can't really tell. And of course, a house like this, had it been properly looked after, those rotted logs would have been taken out and replaced with good ones over the years anyway. So they sort of, these buildings sort of evolve, But I applied, I can't remember, in something like 1993 to have the building designated as a provincial historic resource, and thereby affording protection, so that when I sell, when you sell, and whoever eventually owns it will have to hopefully look after it, because it really doesn't belong to any individual. It belongs to the people of Alberta, and they've given Riverlot 3 the highest level of designation in the province. So it shows how important this whole Victoria settlement area is.